When The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air premiered in 1990, it didn't feel like just another sitcom. It felt like a family you somehow already knew. A teenager from West Philadelphia, a wealthy mansion in Bel-Air, and a clash that turned into one of television's most iconic stories. For 6 seasons, the Banks family lived in millions of homes around the world, making people laugh and sometimes even pause in silence. But 36 years later, nothing looks the same anymore. So today, we go back to where it all began and see where the cast of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is in 2026. This is Then and Still. Let's subscribe the channel and explore with me The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Number 1. Will Smith. Before he became the Fresh Prince, Will Smith was already making noise in music. In the late 1980s, he rose to fame as one half of DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, known for clean, energetic rap at a time when hip-hop had a very different sound. He was young, charismatic, and full of personality, but still far from global fame. Then came the role that changed everything. A sitcom built around his personality, a street-smart teenager from West Philadelphia sent to live with his wealthy relatives in Bel-Air. When the show premiered in 1990, it didn't just introduce a character, it introduced a cultural moment. Will wasn't just acting. He was himself, and that made the show feel real in a way audiences had never seen before. For 6 seasons, he became the center of one of television's most iconic families. But what happened after the final episode is what defines his story. When The Fresh Prince ended in 1996, Will didn't slow down. He left television behind and stepped straight into films, a move that changed his entire career path. Over time, he went from sitcom star to leading major Hollywood films, building a career that reached audiences far beyond television. At 57 years old in 2026, Will Smith is no longer just the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He is one of the most recognizable actors of his generation, with a career that expanded far beyond the show that started it all. But for fans, he will always be remembered the same way. A young man from Philadelphia who turned his personality into a legacy. Number 2. Philip Banks, Uncle Phil. If Will Smith was the heart of the show, then Uncle Phil was its foundation. From the very first episode, James Avery's portrayal of Philip Banks gave the series its balance. Authority, discipline, and emotion all in one character. He wasn't just a wealthy judge living in Bel-Air. He was the voice that stopped chaos in the house, the man who challenged Will, and slowly the father figure who grew to love him as his own son. What made Uncle Phil unforgettable wasn't power, it was depth. A strict exterior hiding someone who cared far more than he showed. A man constantly trying to do the right thing, even when it wasn't easy. Over time, he became one of the most respected father figures in television history. But after the show ended in 1996, James Avery continued working in film and television, bringing that same presence to every role. At 68 years old in 2013, James Avery passed away, leaving behind a legacy that reached far beyond comedy. Now in 2026, Uncle Phil is not remembered for how he aged, but for the father figure he became for millions watching around the world. Number 3. Carlton Banks. Carlton Banks was everything Will wasn't: structured, controlled, precise, and completely unpredictable in his own way. From his sweater vests to his strict routines, Carlton represented order inside a house full of chaos, and that contrast made him unforgettable. But underneath the perfection was something more human: pressure, insecurity, and a constant need to prove himself in a world where he never fully felt in control. Over time, Carlton evolved from a rigid personality into someone more self-aware, more vulnerable, and more real. Alfonso Ribeiro turned that transformation into one of sitcom television's most iconic performances. At 54 years old in 2026, Alfonso Ribeiro continues working in television and hosting, still connected to the industry that made him famous. But for fans, Carlton Banks will always be frozen in time, in movement, in rhythm, and in personality. Number 4. Hilary Banks. Hilary Banks started as the definition of luxury: fashion, status, image. That was her world at the beginning of the series. She lived in comfort, but not always in purpose. What made her interesting was her evolution. Over time, Hilary slowly stepped out of that image-driven lifestyle and began building her own identity, eventually finding independence outside her family's wealth. Karen Parsons brought charm and humor to the role, making Hillary both entertaining and surprisingly relatable. At 57 years old in 2026, Karen Parsons has stepped away from mainstream acting and focused on life outside Hollywood. But Hillary Banks remains a reminder that growth sometimes comes quietly, not loudly. Number 5. Ashley Banks. Ashley Banks was the youngest voice in the house. At the start, she was simply the observer, watching Will's chaos and the family's constant clashes from the background. But as the series continued, she grew up in real time. Her character began questioning the world around her, her identity, and her place in it, turning her into one of the most relatable arcs in the show. Tatiana Ali delivered that journey with natural realisms, making Ashley feel authentic rather than scripted. At 47 years old in 2026, Tatiana Ali continues working in entertainment and public life. But for many fans, Ashley Banks represents something simple: growing up in front of the world, one season at a time. Number 6. Jeffrey Butler. Jeffrey Butler was the quiet force of the house, always calm, always precise, and always ready with the perfect line at the perfect moment. While chaos unfolded around him, Jeffrey remained steady, often saying what everyone else was thinking, but in the most controlled way possible. Joseph Marcel gave Jeffrey a presence that felt timeless, intelligent, restrained, and unforgettable. At 77 years old in 2026, he continues his work in theater, staying connected to performance long after television. But Jeffrey Butler remains exactly as fans remember him. The man who saw everything, said little, and left a lasting impression every time. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air wasn't just a sitcom. It was a time capsule, a version of television where humor, emotion, and family all lived in the same space. And while time has changed the cast, the memories remain untouched. Because some shows don't just end, they stay with us. This is Then and Still,